The twin suns were hot above the dry streets of Marok 7, a dusty planet filled with traders, ships, and noise. But no one noticed the small figure lying near the edge of the spaceport. She was just another unwanted thing in a world full of business and noise. She wasn't old, maybe the age of a human teenager, but her body looked broken. One leg dragged behind her. Her left arm was twisted and weak. Her skin was pale gray, cracked from sun and wind. Her black eyes were dull. Her name didn't exist. No one ever gave her one. Her people never cared. On her homeworld, if you were born disabled, you were left behind. Weakness was a shame. Survival was for the strong, and yet she was still alive. Somehow, she had learned to crawl, to steal crumbs from trash piles, to hide when angry voices shouted. Her body was fragile, but her will was still there, burning quietly. She reached a hand toward a passing traveler, just a simple gesture, but the traveler stepped over her as if she were filth. Another alien spit on the ground near her and walked away. A group of young traders pointed and laughed. "Look at it," one said, crawling like a bug. Her throat was dry, her belly ached. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked and vanished into the heat. Then something strange happened. Man, taller than anyone around, stopped. He wore dark clothes and had sunburnt skin. His beard was short and his eyes were sharp. He looked human. He didn't say anything at first, he just stood there watching her. She stared back, unsure if he would kick her or laugh. Slowly he knelt down. She flinched. Her hands went up in fear. She had been hit before. But the man didn't hurt her. Instead, he reached into his pack and took something out. It was soft, warm, smelled like bread. Her stomach made a sound. She stared at the food, unsure if it was real. "Take it," the man said gently. She looked at him, confused. She shook her head slowly. "Why?" she whispered. He didn't answer right away. He placed the bread in front of her and sat down on the dusty ground. Traders passed by and stared. Some rolled their eyes. Others laughed. But he didn't care. "You hungry?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Then eat." With shaky hands, she grabbed the bread. She sniffed it, then bit carefully like it might disappear. The taste made her eyes water. It was real, warm, safe. The man watched her eat for a moment. Then he said, "What's your name?" She paused. A name? She didn't have one. She looked away, ashamed. "No name?" he asked, surprised. She shook her head. He was quiet for a while, then he smiled softly. "Then maybe I'll give you one later." She looked at him again. Her heart was racing. No one had ever spoken like that before. He asked, "Are you alone?" She nodded. He looked around, then back at her. "Where do you sleep?" She pointed to a broken crate behind the trash pile. That was her home. He sighed. She waited for him to get up and leave. That's what everyone did. Give food maybe and walk away. But this man didn't move. Instead, he looked at her and said, "You don't look broken to me." Her eyes widened. That word, broken, had been thrown at her all her life. But the way he said it was different. "You're still alive," he said. "That means something." She didn't know how to respond. Her fingers clutched the last bit of bread like it was treasure. The sun dipped lower in the sky. The spaceport grew louder as more ships arrived. But in that small, dusty corner, the human and the girl sat in silence. She didn't even know his name. But something deep inside her shifted. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't invisible anymore. The girl didn't know what to do when he stood up. She thought he was leaving like all the others, but instead of walking away, the human bent down again. He opened a small side pocket of his bag and pulled out something strange, soft, woven and clean. A blanket, not a shiny one used by rich traders, not the thin kind found in trash piles. This was warm, folded carefully, smelling faintly of soap and sunlight. "For you," he said. She froze. Her hands shook. Why? Why was he giving her this? No one gave her anything before. Not food, not kindness, not a name, just kicks, insults and silence. He noticed her confusion. It's okay, he said gently. You don't have to trust me, but you're cold. She was. Even in the heat of Marok 7's suns, her thin skin felt the chill of hunger, of fear. Her body never warmed properly. She took the blanket with slow fingers, watching him carefully like a wounded animal. He smiled again, just a little. Better? She nodded, unsure how to respond. Then he sat beside her again on the hot, dusty ground as if it were the soft floor of his own home. He didn't seem bothered by the dirt or the flies or the smell of burned metal from passing ships. He was just there. They sat like that for a while. Then he pulled out something else, a small bottle of water. He handed it to her. Drink slowly. She obeyed, sipping carefully, feeling the water cool her throat like rain touching dry stone. After a few moments, he asked, "What do others call you?" She didn't speak. "Nothing?" he asked. She shook her head. The man looked angry, but not at her. At the world, maybe. "That's not right," he muttered. He looked at her again, this time softer. "Then I'll call you something," he said. "You deserve that much." She blinked. Was he serious? He looked up at the darkening sky, thinking. "How about Elira?" he asked. "It means hope in an old Earth language." She repeated the word in a whisper. Elira. Her lips had never said a name before, especially not one for herself. She looked at him. "What's your name?" He seemed surprised. No one had asked him that in a long time. "Jonas," he said. "Just Jonas. Jonas." She repeated, and suddenly they weren't strangers anymore. A shadow passed over them, a huge cargo ship landing on Dock 12. People hurried past, rushing to their ships, carrying boxes, shouting prices. No one cared about the broken girl wrapped in a blanket, but Jonas did. He stood up and looked down at her. "You can't stay here." Her heart skipped. She tightened the blanket around herself. I don't belong anywhere," she whispered. "You do now," he said, "with me." She stared up at him. She didn't know if he was crazy or kind or dangerous. Maybe all three. But he had fed her, named her, spoken to her like a person. Where would we go?" she asked. "I work on a salvage ship," he said. "Small crew. I fix broken things." She looked down at her twisted arm. He smiled. "Maybe I can fix more than just machines." Her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken like that to her. He reached out a hand. She stared at it. Her heart raced. Could she really trust him? A voice in her head screamed, "No! What if he sells you? What if it's a trick?" But her fingers moved on their own. She placed her shaking hand into his. He didn't flinch. He didn't pull away. Instead, he pulled her gently up. Her legs trembled. Her body wasn't used to standing, but with his help she didn't fall. They walked together toward Dock 14, her slow limp beside his strong steps. People stared, some laughed, others whispered, but Jonas ignored them all, and Elira held his hand a little tighter. The engines of Jonas's ship hummed softly as they lifted off from Marok 7. Elira sat quietly on a folded blanket in the corner of his small cabin, watching the stars pass by through the round window. Her new name still echoed in her mind like a song she never knew she needed. She coughed, again, the same deep, painful cough she had tried to hide. Jonas turned around from the pilot seat. "That's getting worse." "I'm okay," she whispered. He knelt beside her and placed a gentle hand on her forehead. "No, you're burning up." She flinched at the touch. She wasn't used to kindness, not even when she was sick. "Where's the nearest station with a market?" Jonas asked the ship's AI. Station Delta 9, the calm voice replied. 12 hours away. Supplies include food, medicine, and equipment. He looked at Elira. We'll get you better, I promise. 12 hours later, the ship docked at Delta 9. Jonas carried Elira in his arms down the ramp. She had tried to walk, but her body was too weak now. Her breaths came slow and shallow. Her skin was hot and pale, and yet her eyes stayed open, watching, always watching him. The market was loud, filled with aliens of all shapes and colors. Merchants shouted prices, lights blinked, security bots hovered overhead. Jonas moved fast, dodging through crowds, heading toward the medical booth. The vendor behind the stall was tall and thin with cold green eyes and sharp teeth. His name tag glowed. Draco, licensed seller, biomeds only. I need fever suppressant, nutrient vials, and lung stabilizers, Jonas said. Draco looked past Jonas to the bundle in his arms. For her? Jonas nodded. The vendor's eyes narrowed. She's not one of us. She's with me. She's broken, Draco said, voice dry and cruel. And not worth the credit? Jonas placed a full credit chip on the table. That enough? Draco didn't even look at it. We don't treat trash. Find another booth. Jonas's jaw tightened. She's a living being. She's a waste of medicine, the vendor said flatly. Move along. Behind him, other vendors began to whisper. One laughed. A human saving a crippled stray? What a joke. Jonas stepped closer to the stall. His voice dropped to a dangerous calm. Say that again, the vendor sneered. I said. Jonas's hand slammed into the table. Loud, sharp. Bottles jumped. Elira gasped softly from his arms. She had never seen him angry before. She had only seen others be angry at her. Not for her. She's not trash, Jonas growled. She's stronger than any of you. The vendor scowled. Security will remove you. Let them come. Draco hesitated. A few people had stopped to watch now. A small crowd gathered. Whispers spread. A few looked curious. Some even looked ashamed. Jonas reached back into his jacket and threw 2 more credit chips on the counter. That's triple price. Give me the medicine. Draco looked at the chips. Greed won. He tossed the bottles across the table. Take them. Now leave. Jonas caught the vials with one hand. With the other, he held Elira close. As he turned to leave, Draco muttered, wasting good meds on a broken thing. Jonas paused, then turned. He looked Draco straight in the eyes and said, loud enough for all to hear, she's not broken. She's healing. Back on the ship, Jonas prepared the medicine. He crushed 1 vial, mixed it in water, and helped her sip it slowly. Elira watched him the whole time. I heard what they said, she whispered. I don't care what they say. You stood up for me. He smiled. Of course I did. No one ever did that before. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Get used to it. Tears formed in her eyes, but she blinked them away. The medicine worked slowly. Her cough eased. Her shaking slowed. Jonas sat beside her as the stars moved again outside the window. Next up, he said. Somewhere quiet, somewhere safe. Elira looked at the stars and whispered, with you, I feel safe. Jonas had set the ship to autopilot and wrapped Elira in a thick blanket near the cabin heater. She was finally sleeping peacefully. Her breathing was calm, no coughing, no shaking. He leaned against the wall and smiled. For the first time, he believed she was getting better, but outside the ship, the stars passed in silence, and inside her heart, fear still lived. The moment Jonas fell asleep in his seat, Elira opened her eyes. She had only pretended to sleep. Her body still ached, but her mind was sharp. She moved slowly, pulling off the blanket, placing it down with care. Her legs trembled as she stood, gripping the edge of the table to stay upright. She looked at Jonas one last time. He had done too much. Given too much. She couldn't repay him. She didn't deserve it. She believed she was a burden, a weight he would carry until it broke him. I will leave before that happens, she whispered to herself. She limped to the exit hatch, used both hands to unlock it, and slipped out into the cold forest of the moon they had landed on earlier to rest. Outside, the world was quiet. The moon was half covered in snow. Trees, like tall silver bones, stood still. The air was thin and sharp. Elira wrapped her arms around herself and kept walking. Each step hurt. Her weak leg dragged through the soft white dust. But she didn't stop. She wanted to find a quiet place. To disappear. Maybe under a tree. Maybe in a cave. She wasn't scared of dying. She was scared of making Jonas hate her. When she became too much. Inside the ship, Jonas stirred. A sound. A beep. The hatch was unlocked. He sat up quickly. Looked. Around Elira? No answer. The blanket was still there, but she was gone. His heart dropped. He grabbed his coat and rushed outside, boots crunching in the fresh snow. Elira, he shouted. Where are you? The cold wind answered with silence. He turned on his flashlight and scanned the trees. Tracks, small uneven tracks in the snow. She was weak, but she had made it far. Elira's vision was blurry. Her body shook from the cold. Her limbs screamed with pain. She fell, once, twice, but got up again, until finally, her legs gave out completely. She fell near the base of a frozen tree. She looked up at the stars. Thank you, she whispered, as if Jonas could hear her thoughts. You were kind. That's more than I ever had. She closed her eyes, waiting for the cold to take her, but before the darkness came, she heard something. Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. Elira. She opened her eyes weakly. A figure appeared, tall, glowing in the flashlight beam. Jonas. He ran to her, dropped to his knees and pulled her into his arms. What are you doing out here? He said, voice tight with fear and anger. I wanted to go, she whispered. Why? Her voice cracked. I'm a burden. You deserve better. Jonas held her tighter, pressing her freezing body to his chest. You don't get to decide that, he said, trembling with emotion. You don't get to leave. I'm not worth this. You're worth everything to me. She blinked. Why? Because you're not just someone I saved. You're someone I chose to care about. He wrapped her tightly in his coat and stood up. His arms were strong, but his eyes were wet. You don't have to run anymore, he said. You're not alone. Back on the ship, he placed her near the heater again, wrapped her in every blanket he had and sat beside her. She didn't speak for a long time. Then quietly she said, You came for me. He nodded. I was ready to fade away, she said. He looked into her eyes. Then I'll keep pulling you back every time. The human outpost shimmered like a silver mirage in the desert sky. Tall towers, humming machines, warm lights, and green roofs. This place was different from the dusty markets and cold spaceports Elira had known. It smelled clean, safe. She stepped off Jonas's ship slowly, holding his hand tightly. She wore a warm coat he had given her, one far too big but soft and comforting. Her thin legs shook with every step, but she kept walking. Jonas smiled beside her. We made it. She nodded. But inside, she wasn't sure. The outpost was a small colony on the edge of human space, mostly workers, engineers, and a few families. It was calm. The air was breathable. There were no shouts, no traders, no danger. But as they passed through the gates, the stares began. Humans stopped mid-conversation. Eyes followed her, a girl with a limp, an alien, wrapped in an oversized coat, holding a human's hand. One man whispered, What is that? Another muttered, Why is he bringing her here? A woman tugged her child closer. Elira felt it all like cold wind on her skin. She tried to let go of Jonas's hand, but he held it tighter. It's okay, he whispered to her. Ignore them. But how could she? At the small medical bay, the human doctor frowned when he saw Elira. She's not human, he said. She's mine, Jonas replied firmly. And she's recovering. The doctor scanned her, then stepped back, surprised. Severe malnutrition, old injuries, weak muscle response, but she's alive. Jonas nodded. She's healing, the doctor sighed. We're not a hospital. She doesn't need a hospital, Jonas said. She just needs care. The doctor gave him a long look and nodded. They gave her a small room beside Jonas's, a soft bed, clean clothes, soup that didn't smell like rot. Elira sat on the edge of the bed, touching the blanket like it was something holy. Her eyes looked around the room as if it might disappear. Jonas stood in the doorway watching her. Not bad, right? He said with a smile. She looked up. It's too much. He stepped inside. It's what you deserve. No, she said, shaking her head. I'm not like you. I'm not like them. I don't belong. Jonas sat beside her. You belong with me. That's enough, she looked down. They hate me. They don't know you yet, and when they do, Jonas was quiet for a moment. Then he said, then they'll see what I see. Days passed. Elira started walking more. Her limp remained, but her steps were stronger. Jonas brought her books, warm drinks, and sat beside her every night. She started reading, learning human words, drawing with crayons someone had left behind. But outside their little room, the stairs remained. People whispered when she passed. Children were pulled away. She heard words like pet, burden, broken, thing. They didn't know she could understand. Each word hurt more than the last. One evening, Elira didn't come to dinner. Jonas found her outside, sitting on a bench alone, hugging her knees. The stars above twinkled gently, but her face was tight and pale. He sat beside her. They don't want me here, she whispered. I do. You don't count. Yes, I do, he said firmly. You're not going anywhere. She looked at him. Why are you doing this? He was quiet. Then he said softly, because I've been broken too. She blinked. I lost people. I've seen things. I know what it feels like to be pushed away. I just had more luck than you, and maybe, just maybe, I'm here to pass that luck on. She stared at him, for the first time, truly seeing him, not just the strong soldier, but the man behind the strength. And then she smiled. Small, soft, real. That night, as she lay in bed, she whispered her name to herself. Elira. And for the first time, it didn't feel borrowed. It felt like hers. The wind howled across the outpost as a dark ship touched down without permission. No flag, no welcome signal, no reason. Its body was jagged metal, scarred by old battles. The engines hissed with a sick, dying sound. Inside the outpost control tower, alarms flashed red. Unknown vessel landing at Pad 3, shouted the operator. The guards rushed outside. Too late. The ramp dropped, and 5 tall figures stepped out, eyes glowing, armor black as night, symbols marked on their shoulders. The mark of the Bloodskins, a pirate group known for hunting rare alien targets, and one of them held a data slab with a face on it, a girl with pale gray skin, and a limp. Elira. Jonas wasn't there. He had left hours earlier on a short transport mission, just a 2-hour round trip. He had said, I'll be back before dinner. But dinner had already passed, and the pirates were here. Elira was in her room when the power went out. The soft hum of heat stopped. Lights flickered once, then died. She sat up slowly. Something felt wrong. She opened the door and stepped into the hallway. Other residents peeked out from rooms, eyes wide, voices whispering. Pirates? Why here? Who are they looking for? Elira's hands shook. She knew. Somehow. Deep. Inside she knew. They were here for her. She moved fast, heart pounding, She limped down the hallway, heading to the storage wing, away from the entrance. But then, she heard it. A voice. Gravelly. Cold. "Where is the alien girl? The broken one?" Gasps. Silence. "No one answers," the pirate barked. "Then we'll start breaking things until someone talks." A loud crash echoed through the building. Screams followed. Elira stopped. She stared at the door beside her. Inside, a family was hiding. She heard a child crying. She turned and looked back down the hallway. She could run. Hide. No one would blame her. But then she remembered something. Jonas's voice. "You're stronger than they'll ever know." She turned around and limped back toward the danger. The pirates had pushed 2 workers to the floor. One pirate lifted his arm, ready to strike. Then a voice rang out. "Stop!" They all turned. At the end of the hallway stood a small, trembling figure, her leg dragged behind her. Her arms were thin, but her eyes burned like fire. "You were looking for me," Elira said. The pirate leader grinned. "There you are." He walked toward her. "Didn't expect you to come out, thought you'd hide like last time." She didn't flinch. "You don't scare me anymore." "You should be scared. We don't leave jobs half done." "I'm not." "A job," she said. "I'm not broken, not anymore." He reached for her, but she did something he didn't expect. She stepped forward. Her weak hand raised and touched the pendant Jonas had given her. A small human device. Nothing fancy. But he had called it a signal spark. "If you're ever in danger," he'd said, "press the center." She pressed it. A tiny light blinked. Miles away, in a nearby canyon, Jonas's ship turned. The pirates noticed too late. Suddenly, the floor beneath them shook. A heavy thump echoed outside. Jonas's ship landed like thunder and the ramp dropped open. He charged down holding a pulse rifle, his face set like stone. He saw her, standing alone, facing armed pirates. "Elira." She turned her head slightly. "You said you'd come back before dinner." He laughed, a sharp, breathless sound. "I'm never late." The pirates raised their weapons. Jonas fired first. Chaos broke out. But Elira didn't run. She stood still. Her body shook, but her legs didn't collapse. One of the pirates ran at her. She raised her weak arm, expecting pain. But another worker from the outpost tackled him. Then another. And another. People were fighting with her, because she had stood first. Minutes later, it was over. 2 pirates escaped. The rest were bound. Jonas stood beside Elira, breathing hard, gun smoking. He looked at her. Really looked. "You stood," he said. She nodded slowly. "I thought I'd fall," she whispered. "You didn't." That night she sat beside him, wrapped in her coat, watching the stars again. "You still think you're a burden?" he asked. She shook her head. "Not anymore." Far above the stars, a message traveled. It was short. 4 words. "The girl still lives." It reached a cold place. A dark throne room. And an alien woman with metal implants across her skull, Commander Vatrax, read it in silence. Her face twisted with rage. "She should have died years ago," she hissed. "Send the warship, find her." Back at the outpost, Elira didn't know any of this. She sat outside the ship, legs folded beneath her, drawing in the dirt with a stick. Jonas watched her from the ramp. It had been a week since the pirates came. The people of the outpost now greeted her kindly. Some even brought her snacks, clothes, or little gifts. Children smiled, adults nodded. She had become more than just the strange girl in a coat. She had become Elira, someone. But that peace didn't last. The next day, a huge shadow passed. Over the sky, a warship, black, silent, deadly. The outpost's alarm screamed again. Jonas's hand grabbed Elira's gently. "We have to move now." But it was too late. A voice crackled through every speaker. "Send out the girl named Elira or we destroy the entire colony." The people stared at her, but no one moved away. One old man stood in front of her. "You're not giving her up." Jonas nodded. Not a chance. But Elira stepped forward, her voice was calm. They want me, I'll go. Jonas turned sharply. No, don't say that. If I go, maybe they'll leave you all alone. He grabbed her shoulders. And if they don't, what then? I won't let you all die because of me. You're not going alone, he said. Her lip trembled. You can't fight a warship, Jonas. He stared into her eyes. We're not fighting it. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, silver device. Something ancient, something he never showed anyone before. This is a bond mark, he said. Rare. Very old. Human tech mixed with alien code. If I link it to you, they can't hurt you. Not without starting a war. Her eyes widened. Why would you give that to me? Because I'm not just protecting you, he said. I'm choosing you. He pressed the bond mark to her chest. It glowed. Bright. Pure. Her skin lit up with soft white lines that pulsed with energy. I dare. Warship sensors saw it immediately. Back on the ship, Commander Vitrax's face changed. A full-life bond with a human? She gasped. She's not property anymore. She's protected under Alliance law. Should we still fire? Her guard asked. Vitrax looked away, then muttered, Call it off. The warship turned in the sky and vanished into space. Back. On the ground, Elira collapsed to her knees, shaking. Jonas caught her. Are you okay? He asked. She looked at him, tears in her eyes. You chose me, in front of everyone, in front of the galaxy. I would do it again, he whispered. Days later, the bond was confirmed in front of a galactic judge. Elira wasn't just a rescued alien now. She was bonded, chosen, recognized by law, and something deeper. People across space started talking. Who? Was this girl with a limp and quiet eyes? Why did a human defend her so fiercely? Why did she survive what others couldn't? One day, a group of officials from her home planet arrived. They bowed before her. We were wrong, their leader said. We thought weakness meant no value. Elira didn't speak. Jonas stepped beside her. She isn't weak. She's stronger than all of you. The aliens nodded, and in that moment they bowed to her, not because of her bloodline, not because of power, but because of who she had become. That night, she and Jonas sat under the stars again. He asked, Do you still think you don't belong? She shook her head. I found where I belong. With me? He asked. She smiled. With you, she said. And with myself.